I'm sorry, that was loud. What's up, guys? How we doing? Welcome back. It's Monday. Hit the like button. Oh yeah. I actually feel like a bag of hot ass, so we're gonna struggle through this tonight, but it's good to see you. Welcome back. I'm back from SHOT Show. I got a couple anecdotes, funny stories for you guys. We might save those for another day because we got a lot of footage to get through. And when I say a lot of footage, we're going to be covering mostly the trending topics over the last 7 days from the website. But do me a favor, hit the like button, drop in the chat. Let me know where you're chiming in from. It's good to see you. You look great. Welcome back. All right. Where are you guys at? Let me know. Niagara Falls, Illinois, Germany. What's going on, guys? What earbuds do you wear? Some cheapo Amazon earbuds. Nothing special. Over there, I got a pair of Bose QC20s on the other stream. How are you? Welcome in north of Chicago. Atlanta's the one popping off right now. That one's weird. Anyway. There we go, Newfoundland. Oh, here we go, Andromeda. Oh, that one's interesting. It's good to see you. How we doing? Yeah, I feel like crap. Not very good at all. I did try to get a workout in. You know, I didn't work out all last week. For those that are wondering where we've been, I was at SHOT Show in Vegas. I took the missus with me. It was my third time ever in Vegas, and you know, hers as well. But we've only gone together twice now. And it was awesome. We had a great time. SHOT Show is always fun. It's always super humbling, you know, getting a chance to run into, you know, all of you out there. That's really cool because sometimes in the day-to-day that we're just handling stuff, we kind of forget about the impact of the work that Funker 530 does, and you guys stopping us and saying, hey, you know, love what you're doing here. The criticism is also great. So if you want to drop in the chat, let us know what we're doing wrong. Thanks for your support, because that also supports the stream. But I did get to run into a few of you at SHOT Show, and it was just awesome. Thank you guys so much for all the support over the last year that we've had the live stream going. This February, we will have been doing this live stream for a year, and it's gone real fast. We do have a sponsor for tonight, and it's going to be a little bit different of a sponsorship, but we'll get to that when we get to it here after a couple of videos. I'm excited to talk about it, though. We're gonna kind of start the night off with a little bit of an update on the tanks to Ukraine. Now, I'm a little bit behind on a lot of stuff, just like I'm sure you guys can understand. You know, my focus at SHOT Show is working with industry. That comes as a part of my you know, back-end Funker 530 work. I handle all of our partnerships, if you will. So while I was there, you know, making sure to focus on that as heavily as possible while still getting a chance to have some fun. You know, I wasn't able to stay connected, but I did happen across the situation with the leopards. We've talked about the leopards to Ukraine for quite a bit. The kitty cat, a very sexy kitty cat. And, you know, it surprises me still to see that Germany has yet to provide any actual approval. Now, there's a reason that I made the title what I did. You know, Poland's prime minister actually came out, and I want to give you a direct quote from him, you know, specifically with relation to the leopards. He says, "Consent is of secondary importance here. We will either obtain this consent quickly or we will do the right thing ourselves." Now, Germany has said that they will not stop Poland from providing Leopard tanks, along with a small coalition of other countries, which so far just includes Finland, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Netherlands is also about to throw their name into that hat. But what Germany has yet to do is actually provide that approval. And it doesn't sound like Poland's going to wait a whole lot longer. This is more of an ask for forgiveness than permission thing. And like I said, what's important about Western tanks to Ukraine is that kind of opens the door to some more advanced type weaponry, you know, to be sent in Ukraine's defense. And there's also going to be a litany of Western intelligence agencies that are actively monitoring, a generation of a tank such as the Leopard 2s as it's pitted against the T-90s, T-80s, and etc. So that's the current status that I'm tracking. If you guys are tracking something a little bit more current than that, let me know. This isn't a news show. I've talked about that over and over again. We just try to talk about some of the more pertinent topics that are out there, if you will. Anyway, how we doing? How you guys doing? But that's something that I wanted to update everybody on is while, yes, Germany has said we won't stop you, they have yet to actually provide the approval necessary for Poland to be able to send them. Now, ultimately, Poland can still send them and just deal with whatever consequences Germany wants to levy later. And any relative consequences that Germany would have for that, I feel like they would have a hard time actually enforcing those. That's just me. I'm not a international law expert in any way, but I feel like the majority of the Western international community would be pretty pissed if Germany tried to levy some level of consequences. When it comes to the Abrams, though, the Abrams is actually really not best suited for Ukraine. The Leopards, because of maintenance, logistics chains, etc., is what Ukraine needs right now. How we doing? Germany won't send anything. Yeah, no. So let's back up a little bit, and we'll talk about why Germany needs to be involved. So the Leopard and Leopard 2, which is the more pertinent for us to talk about, are designed and developed by Germany. And they are provided on export to Poland. Now, in order for Poland to provide those to Ukraine, Germany has to technically approve that because of export laws. The same would apply for Abrams that are owned by another country. The United States would have to approve the provision of Abrams. Now, Poland's prime minister, and I'll requote him once again, says consent is of secondary importance here. What he's saying is, if you don't give me the approval, I'm just going to do what we feel is right as a nation. And whatever consequences that Germany tries to levy, if they do, there's something to be said for Germany essentially, holding out for more countries to be on board with it. Whatever consequences they try to levy, it'd be difficult to see those, actually enforced. Germany gave those tanks to Poland under contract. Correct. Yep. So that's what I wanted to cover on the tanks. There's a reason that is, the reason that we don't yet see Leopard 2s. Now, supposedly the Bradleys are getting a little bit closer as well. Don't have a very good update on that. Like I said, I've been out of the game for the last week or so. But I did want to also give you an update on Belarus. Yeah. So let's take a look at a video really quick from Belarus. Hot topic. Definitely a hot topic. But it's important that we all stay connected to Belarus's current readiness, just to the north of Ukraine. Here you are. Let's take a look at that readiness. My youngest daughter actually does cheerleading, and that's a very good pyramid. It's a very good pyramid. Something to be said. Let's go back to it. That's what I wanted to start tonight with. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I just don't. I don't feel good. I've got the SHOT Show crud. I don't know. It's karate in the garage is the best way to title that video. Is Belarus going to invade Ukraine? Who gives a shit? I just can't with that video. This is the second time we've seen something. I've personally seen something like this. The last one was a karate demonstration in a mall. I don't know what to tell you. All right. Anyway, I do have something a little bit more serious to show you guys from. I don't know. I don't see how you as a nation you can put something out like that as a projection of power, right? You know, I'm not. We're gonna leave it alone. I do want to talk about something a little bit more serious though. There was an interesting video that we released just before. Actually, it was about midway through last week, and it reminds me a whole lot of Open Skies, and we'll talk about what Open Skies here in a second. But a Russian spy ship off the coast of Hawaii is being monitored by the Coast Guard right now. What's most pertinent about this is its linger time out there. It's been lingering, you know, off the coast of Hawaii for a couple weeks, and there's some really good high definition video of that ship coming up for you guys now. And we'll talk about why this reminds me of Open Skies and what Open Skies is here in a minute. But this is not currently the same. I'm not saying that those two things are the same. Check this out. Now, if you're not familiar with Open Skies, let's talk about that. The Open Skies Treaty is a very old treaty going all the way back to, you know, the USSR days. And what it essentially allowed in an unlimited duration, you know, there was no end to the Open Skies Treaty. And this is not the same. It just reminds me of it. I'll get to the pertinence here in a second. It allowed an unlimited duration of aerial surveillance for those that were signatories. I want to say there's, you know, 20 or 30 signatories of it. To the point to where, you know, we and Russia flew, you know, intelligence and surveillance aircraft over each other's nations. Well, in 2021, Biden pulled the United States out of the Open Skies Treaty. It's something for you to Google if you're not familiar with it. And Russia followed suit. And this kind of reminds me of that. This kind of stuff happens all the time. It's not something to be an alarmist about, but it's still interesting in and of itself that the United States government released that. Just wanted to bring that one to your attention. How you guys feeling about that? Torpedo. You can't just torpedo. You can't just torpedo the thing for being there. That's not how that works. What's going on, Chad? I see you out there. Sink it. You can Guys, you can't just torpedo the ship for just being there. Oh, man. Now, it's time for us to talk a little bit about our sponsor tonight. We're going to do things a little bit differently. For that, I've got a quick video for you guys to watch. I think you'll enjoy it, though. Thanks for bearing with me. We absolutely love those that are, you know, really help it. Since we're having so many problems with YouTube and monetization, the folks that sponsor this stream matter very much to us. Check this out.
Hi, good morning. It's Monday morning. I just got home from SHOT Show, and I'm still recovering. Let's just put it that way. But, oh, that's nice. But, one of the questions I got on the floor consistently was about my watch. I absolutely love it. It's from Smith & Bradley. It's a Swiss quartz watch, solid steel construction, 300-meter water resistance with an anti-reflective face. It's also got a NATO watch strap, or a NATO band, which is pretty new to me. Lefties unite. It's also made in America, and it's got a lifetime warranty. Now, when something gets sent to me, I actually use it and try it. I test it to see if it's something that I enjoy. I wore it the entire time that I was there, whether I was talking in a booth or if I was just walking around fingering all the guns. I'm starting to get into watches. My wife got me a really nice watch when we were on a cruise for our 10-year anniversary, and this one was sent to me to give Smith & Bradley a check. You should do the same. All right, let's get back to the show. Thanks for being here. Go check out Smith & Bradley. You can catch a link for them down in the description of whatever it is you're watching. And I'm gonna finish my coffee.
So that's Smith & Bradley. Smith & Bradley, sponsor of tonight's stream. I honestly did wear this thing the entirety of my time at SHOT Show. Go check them out. You know, American-made, full steel. I love it. I'm wearing it tonight. Again, though, I'm not a watch guy, you know, by any means. I'm starting to become one, so I'm still learning a whole lot about quartz watches versus mechanical watches. And if you're looking to kind of start down that same path that I am right now, this one, in a relative sense, isn't going to break the bank. There's a link that you guys can click down in the stream description, and also I've pinned a comment up at the top of the live chat for you, and you'll see their logo down there at the bottom. Anyway, let's get started with the rest of our footage tonight. The very first thing I wanted to show you guys, we're going to start in the east, and like I told you, we're going to use the trending footage section of the website for the last 7 days to drive most of tonight's stream. There's too much footage for us to get to in you know, any appropriate semblance of time. Will was actually one of the only ones blogging while we were gone. 50% of the Funker team was on ground at SHOT Show. But the first thing I wanted to show you guys was a drone tour of Marinka in the east. Show you all that liberation of Ukraine. Check this out. We're actually very close.
Monday morning.
Oh,
I just got home from SHOT Show, and I'm still.
I don't know why that started playing again. It's because I don't know how to run my own equipment. We're actually pretty close with Willie. Willie's a good friend of ours, and we could absolutely get him back on the show. He's been, you know, putting out a lot of content, and we try to embed that content, you know, as often as possible. We had him on a couple times earlier in the year, and we're probably due to have him back on. That's a great suggestion. But yeah, that's Marinka, and it is the all that liberation in one spot. Every so often, rather than the combat footage itself, what I try to do is show you guys a little bit of context, and that's the kind of the best context for Donetsk and Luhansk right now is just destruction. We've got a Russian howitzer taking a direct hit by something in Avdiivka. Also coming out of the east. Pull this one up. I think this one works still. Yep, we're good. Avdiivka, another one of those areas that's still hotly contested. Watch that again. Hard to know what it took a hit from, though. And that's all the context we had for it. Just we really only had location footage for that one. Speaking of artillery, though, we've got some Ukrainian artillery coming up here. And this is somewhere in Luhansk, but it was published by the 92nd Brigade, the Ukrainian 92nd Brigade. And the best location info that I have for it is Luhansk. But what you're going to see here is artillery ultimately forcing Russians to retreat. And I've spoken about Ukraine's general prowess with artillery, even prior to receiving the 777s. I actually did an entire video on what made them so effective from an artillery perspective. But now that they have, you know, much more accurate Western and precision systems, they're only becoming even better with it. Here you go. Because I don't even know if that's I don't know if that's copywritten or not. Hey, Rudy, I see you out there, man. Ammo rack went bye-bye. Yep. Advancing backwards again. Welcome in from Lexington, Kentucky. Illinois. Don't worry, if we all run into the same big-ass house, your special guest with the 50 cal, is he still there? Yep, he sure is. You're speaking about Nuckin Futz Yuri. We talk to him pretty regularly. We check in on him, make sure he's doing okay, make sure he's alive. Yep. Welcome in, Pat. How are you? Let's bring things back up. I do have some good and bad news at the same time. Stream Elements updated how it shows us the alerts, and for the life of me, what I can't see is the super chat amounts from you guys. All I can see is that you guys have sent in a few super chats. Mike, thank you very much for sending one in. That fur face though, you likey? Yeah. The missus likes it. It'll be cut off here soon once I have to go back to weekend warrior duty. I'll get the new dashboard figured out. That happened while I was gone as well. Why is the app so heavy toward Ukraine victories? That's the footage that we find, boss. You know, it's just what's out there. Under most circumstances, when we find a piece of Russian footage, we post it. When we find a piece of Ukrainian footage, we post it. What we tend to notice, though, is that the overwhelming majority of footage that gets released by Russians is just dead people. It's not actual combat footage. And, you know, we're not opposed to showing a little bit of war, right? Because dead people happen in war. We're not opposed to showing that. But when it's just dead people for the purposes of dead people, there's absolutely no element of combat footage in that. Now, just like the Ministry of Defense releases that come from Russia or the Wagner releases that get put out on reverse side of the metal on Telegram, you'll find those. You'll absolutely find them. Ukraine is releasing a lot more footage, though. They are doing much better in the information space. Thanks very much for sending in a super chat. Poland is getting Abrams and K2s. Yeah, but they're not expected to receive those Abrams until, I want to say, 2024, right? So the provision of those Leopards is actually significant relative to the amount of time that it should be until they get the Abrams. So thanks for that, Torek. Dan, thank you for the super chat. Been there, done the crud also. Hope you feel better. Mine got worse. Flying took me 2 weeks to get better. Yeah, SHOT Show. My first SHOT Show was last year. I came home with the Coburd. And who knows what could happen over the next 24 to 48. I actually canceled the follow-up stream on the second channel because I just feel like crap. Johnny Big Mickey, thanks very much for the super chat. I'm also not a watch guy, but I like to watch. I like watches, man. I just never really got into them, and I like everything about this one. I'm being honest. I would tell you otherwise. Wyatt, thanks very much for the super chat. Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday to you, sir. And D-Rock, thanks for the super chat. Hey, Ronnie, why do some Russian soldiers have this pad thing attached to their butts? Is it like the U.S. Army's sack flap that goes on the front of your IOTVs? I've seen it some of the videos on the site. Yeah, that's probably exactly what it is. Additional like flak protection, additional protection for the hind parts. Not sure, but more than likely that's what it is. All right, let's jump into the next one. We've got some footage, once again, from a Ukrainian perspective. This is a unit that goes by the name Adam. Adam. And they release a bit of a mixtape here, mostly from Bakhmut. Bakhmut still continues to be contested. There, once again, and there is still a relative back and forth on the significance of Bakhmut from a victory perspective for Russia. So if Russia ends up being able to take Bakhmut, the significance of that is kind of arguable. On the Ukraine side, it's also a little bit arguable, but it's a little bit more significant if Ukraine holds it, just from a morale perspective, because generally speaking, it's their land. That's not even generally speaking, it just is. Here you go, check this out. Copyright music, gonna turn our own on. Oh, it's like a butt pad? It's a cushion? Hold the on. Hold, stamp, hold on. It's a cushion? They have ass cushions? No, it's not. I don't believe you. I'll have an answer for that next stream. I'm looking that up. I don't believe you. Keep your ass from freezing? I guess it makes sense, yeah. Cold weather. I never got issued an ass cushion. Then again, I'm just an Intel weenie, so I had cushioned chairs to sit on. Evening, Ronnie from the UK. Did you see the drone brought down by the camo netting? Yep, that's not the first time. We've actually seen video of that happening before. And I want to, if I recall correctly, it was a Lancet as well. But yeah, I did. Never would have guessed. I had no idea that it was that it was an ass cushion. I didn't. Hey, if it works, it works. This one's actually a little bit terrifying. So we're going to see a little bit more drone footage here, and that's a lot of what you just saw there. But we're going to see more of it. I've talked before about, kind of the irony of being in this trench meta, this World War I-esque trench meta, while you also have high precision weapon systems being used. Just imagine just being a sitting duck on both sides, because, Russia still also does have their Lancets, which are proving to be pretty ineffective against main battle tanks. Even admittedly, we talked about that a couple streams ago. It was a T-64 BV that they tried using a Lancet on, didn't do a whole lot of damage. They're still effective on some of the lighter armor systems, but imagine being a dismount, imagine being infantry, sitting in your trench where you are just a duck. That's what you're going to see here, except from a Ukrainian versus Russian perspective. Here you go. The Abrams turbine engine, in my opinion, has an atrocious amount of fuel burn. It does. It does something like, what is it, 2 miles to the gallon, and that's with, you know, some of its more recent upgrades. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the super chat, Joe. Blueberry, thanks very much for the super chat. How do some people survive grenade explosion in vid? Well, I mean, just because you see it exploding and them moving doesn't necessarily mean that they, as an eventuality, survive it. Fragmentation, both primary and secondary, which is more commonly referred to as shrapnel, but shrapnel was a dude. Primary fragmentation being the fragmentation, you know, built into the munition. So think of a fragmentation grenade. Secondary fragmentation, rocks, dirt, bone. The body does some amazing things from an adrenaline perspective. You know, we've seen plenty of footage of people taking a grenade hit extremely close to them, knowing full well that they were just peppered with shrapnel, and adrenaline kept them moving for another, 20, 30, 40 feet. The reverse is also sometimes applicable as well. You could get extremely lucky. You never know. Thanks very much for the super chat. All right, let's move on to our next one here. We've got Ukrainian SSO, or SOF, Special Operations Forces, in a rolling woodline firefight in the snow against Russians. This one was a pretty good video to watch. Now, again, I just want to rehash this. What we're covering tonight is the top and most trending videos on the app and website over the last 7 days. Since I was gone over the last 7 days, these are things that we haven't covered on a live show. If you guys wanted to catch this stuff before I ever got near it, before you ever had to see my stupid face talk, download the app, check the website, because all of this stuff was available all week. All right? Check this out.
Пострел! Пострел! Дав трес, спостерігай. Даю дві.
All right, let's bring that back up. Again, that was Ukrainian SSO near Kremina. That Kremina-Svatova line just kind of continues to ebb and flow. I got placed in timeout. Seriously, what'd you do? Huh? What'd you say? All right, let's move on to the next one, though. That was intense. Oh, yeah. And the woodline fights make the hair on the back of your neck stand up a little bit higher. It's especially bad that what we're seeing is, a very two-dimensional perspective of what was happening. Under most circumstances, by the time we get a video, it's going to be, uploaded and downloaded and uploaded and downloaded so many times. Unless we receive it direct, if you have direct submission to us, funker530.com/submit. You can send a video straight to us. The closer we get to the original source, obviously, the better context that we're going to have. But most of the time, by the time we find it, it's been passed around, back and forth, even on Telegram, one of our primary sources. So what we don't see is what they actually see on the ground. We see the comment all the time, I can't see shit. I can't see anything. Well, again, a typical engagement distance being, 200 to 400 meters. You add into the fact that we're watching like a 480p video. It's difficult to take in truly what that was like on the ground. So when you have a video like this that does just really raise the adrenaline a little bit, imagine being there. And that's ultimately the purpose of the show, to help you understand the time on the ground. Why was I put in timeout? I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what you said. I'm not the one doing the thing. I'm doing the video. right now. Sorry, man. Matthew, thanks for the 10. Appreciate that. Thanks for the super chat. If I catch the super chat, I gotta like revert the stream elements thing back to the old dashboard. But if I catch the super chat in the chat, I'm able to see how much you guys sent in. Over on my dashboard, the way they have the new dashboard, I can't see the amounts. I don't like it. I think that's stupid. All right, let's move on to our next one, though. Okay, well, so what we're going to have here, this is somewhere in Donetsk. We're still in the east. We're still in Ukraine's east at the moment. And we've got some non-Ukraine footage that I want to take a look at here in a little bit. I would consider this to be not safe for work. Discretion is advised, but what you're going to see is a failed Russian assault that ultimately ends in an entire squad no longer being with us. But discretion is advised. I've done my job. Here you are. There's no sound to this, and we're going to leave music off. Ronnie, get more monitors. Bro, I've got 4. So if you're kind of wondering, if you need to be oriented to what's going on, you've got Ukrainians in their trench here, and these Russians had assaulted their position, and they're trying to work their way back out of that assault, but they've overcommitted at this point. We do pay the mods. I pay them in hot dogs, but not the good ones. For new mods, they start with Vienna sausages. They all really look forward to payday. What app is he talking about? Exclamation point app in the chat. Please and thank you. This is the Funker 530 app. It's available on iOS and on Android. Pay me in chicken nuggets. You'll get it. You'll get tube food and you'll like it. That's question mark app. So exclamation point app, and that'll give you the link for the app. If you're just now joining us, what we're watching here was a failed Russian assault on a Ukrainian position. They essentially assaulted through the open against a trench, which led to that squad being eliminated. And that's about the end of that video. Let's bring it back up. And if you do have the app and you'd like to support us more directly rather than YouTube/Google taking 30%, consider a Funker 530 Pro account. The Pro account gets you ad-free experience on the app and on the website. So if you're logged in on the app or the website, you'll never have to experience ads. But 100% of that goes back to the Funker 530 team. What's that smoky thing? A person? That's what it was. All right. I would actually kind of consider this next one unsafe as well. For work, generally speaking. Depends on what your work is, I guess. This is my work. So what you're going to see here is a Russian reporter. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen this already. Again, we're covering the top trending videos from the last week since I was out last week at SHOT Show. What you're going to see is a Russian reporter getting wounded in the middle of her broadcast by something. You know, whether it's a well-placed marksman, round from a marksman, which is probably the more likely because we don't have an explosion or anything of the kind or anything of the sort. But what also makes this interesting is the attire that she's wearing and her nationality. She is a reporter on behalf of Russians, but she is also Ukrainian. She's a Ukrainian native from Luhansk. Take note of the clothing that she's wearing here. And it might be tough for you to watch. The audio, more specifically. Check this out.
Совсем рядом с нами идет стрелковый бой.
Артиллерия штурмовиков на время подавляет огневую точку, с которой нас обстреляли. Под прикрытием благополучно переходим пути и уже в относительной безопасности за вагонами Настю аккуратно кладут на заднее сиденье и увозят с линии огня. Мы же возвращаемся со...
All right, let's talk about something. So let's talk about something. I already saw the question. Why are snipers shooting reporters? From a distinguishing features perspective, through an optic, that's not going to look like a reporter. It's just not. Wearing Russian uniform, correct. Yeah, that's why I pointed that out specifically. Now, I don't know what the origin of her wound is, right? I don't hear an explosion, and I'm also seeing this. I'm a guy on the internet looking at a video on the internet. I'm also seeing this in a very two-dimensional space. So I also don't really know any context surrounding it. But it is important to note what she's wearing. Now, the situation when it comes to Russia and media from like a division of lines perspective is very blurred. State-sponsored media, the majority of media in Russia is ultimately controlled by the state. I don't know a whole lot about her specifically. I know her name. Her name is Anastasia Yeluskova. And she, from a wound perspective, she multiple, quote, shrapnel injuries and a fracture near the left knee. Now that starts to conflict a little bit with the potential marksman aspect to this. But again, the first casualty in war is the truth. I have no idea what hit her. And I don't think anybody truly does except for her, to be honest with you, or whoever was on the other end of that shot or whatever it was. She has no press vest. She's straight, 100%. Yeah, correct. That is an important note. All right, let's bring it back up. Shrapnel from artillery. Yeah, so the problem with that is we don't hear any arty landing. Like, we can watch it one more time. Discretion once again advised, since I'm going to roll this again, but I don't hear any arty hitting the ground anywhere really close to her. Now, fragmentation carries and can carry quite a long distance. So if there's something in the distance that ended up doing that, I'm not sure. Let's check it out one more time.
Совсем рядом с нами идет стрелковый бой.
Again, no explosion really there. You hear explosions in the distance. Those are, at a minimum, hundreds of meters away. To me, that looks more like that looks more like direct fire. let's move on to the next one here. Torek, thanks for the super chat. The uniform says, please. Malti, thank you very much for the super chat. There are rumors that increase day by day that Germany is planning to supply Ukraine with 100 Leopard 1s. That'd be interesting. That's not one that I've seen. Rumint, I love. I love Rumint because most rumors, what's that quote from Inglourious Bastards? That rumors have, some level of truth into them. I don't know. That's one I'll take a look at, though. Thanks very much for the super chat. Shamans, thanks very much for the super chat. We get paid, but have to immediately donate it back. Here's this week's check, Ronnie, dictator. You spelled dictator wrong. There's a K in there, right after the C. Thanks very much, buddy. Sam, thanks very much for the super chat. All right, let's move. Novosolivske. Don't know if I pronounced that right, but that's in Luhansk. We've got... What's up? I fixed it. I don't know what happened, guys. Every time the stream goes down, it reminds me of when we first started. It reminds me of when we first started the stream and I was getting DOSed every night. But we're good. We're here. Hit the like button again. There we go. We back. All right. Let's get back to the footage here. We'll see if we can. We'll see if we'll be able to stay up. I don't know what. Giggity goo. I don't know what happened. Anyway, let's go back to the TOS 1A footage that I had going on here. I need to pop my chat back out. Come back, chat. There you guys are. Hey, folks. You guys look nice. Thanks for sticking around for those that did. Back to the footage. Let's run that one more time. This is the TOS 1A. Multi, thanks very much for the super chat. Lord's Brewing Company, thanks for the super chat. Where do I join to become a mod? Work for hot dogs. We might actually be opening up for some new mods. What we look for in mods, just so everybody's tracking that, is somebody that's really engaged in the Discord and the community. It was Artie. That's not standard Artie, and you can tell based on that shockwave there that you see. That's the pretty distinct signature of the TOS 1A. All right, let's bring it back up. Yeah, I don't know what happened. What happened? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. So, once again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this properly, but Novosolivske? No, we're going to call it Nova. We've got a Russian T-90 being taken out of action by reportedly both an FGM-148 Javelin as well as an AT-4. I think. No, this one was just the AT-4. I'll bring that up for you guys now. And again, it was just reportedly an AT-4. The damage to it would make sense. All right, let's bring it back up. I saw the request in chat to kind of explain how the TOS-1A works. So essentially, it's a special fuel mixture inside of the munitions that it fires. It multiple rocket type launcher on top of, I want to say, the T-72 chassis. And what it does is that special fuel mixture essentially ignites and removes all air around you. That's why they call it the heavy flamethrower. It's gross. And that shock wave that you see there is one of its distinct signatures. Mike, thanks very much for the super chat. Here's a quote from Inglorious Bastard. I love rumors. Facts can be so misleading where rumors, true or false, are often revealing. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Frank, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Great info. Keep up the good work. Thanks for being here. It is supposed to be a little bit shorter of a stream tonight, and we won't have a follow-up stream over on the other channel tonight. I'm recovering from SHOT Show. I think I have the Coburd. I'll be just fine. Trust me. But I've only been back home now, less than 24. So I want to spend a little bit more time just hanging out with the kids. I haven't seen them in a week. I dropped my daughter off at soccer right before the stream started, so I'd like to eat dinner with them. That'd be cool. But I have stood down the follow-up stream that we typically go from here to there on. Let's keep on keeping on with the footage, though. What do you think? Checking in on the chat here. All right, we're going to shift out of the east of Ukraine, and we're going to move into the south here. This was a big news story right as I was leaving. A KH-22 cruise missile ended up impacting an apartment building. And over 40 Ukrainians were reported to be killed, with an additional, I want to say, 60, 70 injured. And those included like a pregnant lady, like a 16-year-old, bunch of small children. Right? That's what happened. Video of that strike coming up for you now. And I did have linked some of the aftermath footage of that. I think at this point, most of you guys have seen it. But if you haven't, that's super easy to find on Twitter. But I'd suggest going to take a look at it. It's pretty heavy damage from this. There's the impact out there in the distance. Matter of fact, I'll see if I can find that footage really quick. We'll turn some music back on here. Or at least images of that aftermath. Clutch, if you're out there and you happen to have a quick link to it, let me know. I'll put that banger of a song back on we were listening to a minute ago. The song's called Not Funny by Conditional. It's one of my favorites. There it is. Already found it.
Нанесен ракетный удар по системе.
This is from a Russian broadcast, maybe? I haven't validated this. This could be somebody else's cut. But check this out.
14 января нанесен ракетный удар по системе военного управления Украины и связанным с ней объектам энергетики. Все назначенные объекты поражены. Цель удара достигнута. Вооруженные силы Российской Федерации продолжают проведение специальной операции.
Приятно, не буду скрывать, приятно, но гораздо приятнее было бы увидеть разнесенный в хлам какой-нибудь Днепровский мост.
Yeah, that's somebody else's cut on the video there, and I think they're connecting a statement from Russian Ministry of Defense from a missile strike from a few from like a week earlier, if I'm not mistaken. So I would, if I'm not mistaken, take that with a grain of salt, though. Anyway, there's some of that aftermath footage. All right, let's move on to our next one. So we have Russia perspective footage here of Russians overrunning a Ukrainian position in Zaporizhia. That video is coming up for you guys right now. We were discussing this on the Discord. Best we could tell, damage from the missile body itself going through the building and not the missile actually exploding on the building. Interesting. All right. Coming up for you. I've got something running in the background here. Stand by. There we go. Again, these are Russians overrunning a Ukrainian position in Zaporizhia. I don't know if that's copywritten or not. Gonna leave the music off for this. Just to orient you, red are Russians and blue are Ukrainians. Those red circles you saw earlier. Torek, thanks very much for the super chat. Aren't T90s supposed to eat AT4 for breakfast? Thanks for that. Now, at most, what I can see here is a team-sized element of Russians. Maybe up to a squad. Yeah, it looks like a squad. And only 2 Ukrainians in this trench. But, I mean, you'll see what happens. Your Ukrainians are now up in this area of the screen. Arnie, I thought you were supposed to be objective. Didn't we just watch Russian footage? I am objective. I support Ukraine kicking Russia out of their country. I have no ties to Ukraine, nor do I have ties to Russia. I fly one flag out front. It is what it is, man. Like it or not. It's up to you. All right, let's move on, though. We show all the footage that we find, okay? You can have your individual biases, right? As a platform, the Funker 530 website itself shows what we find. We're a small team. We can't post everything. In fact, I left a comment on somebody's message on the Funker 530 site earlier today. Like, we posted a piece of footage that had a huge watermark over the front of it. Yeah, it wasn't the best. We are live. Trolls lives matter. Yes. But when we miss one, we catch we catch hell for it. And when we post one, we catch hell for it. It's all good. It's all good, guys. Saul Goodman. That was a good show. Just reading through the chat here, catching up with you guys. Again, I've been gone for a week, so it's just nice to be hanging out with you for a little bit this evening. All right, let's move on to our next area of Ukraine footage. So this is where we get into our unknown location footage. I don't have great location in Ukraine for it. Ultimately, the mission of Funker 530 is not to give you the latest and greatest on what's happening on the ground within the last 12 hours. I'm not a news broadcaster. Never want to be, never will be. What we do is document footage, and we do that primarily, if you'd like to go back to the old days of Funker posts raw footage. We can't do that on YouTube anymore. It's against their rules. If you haven't read about YouTube's new rules, they're getting a little bit testy with a lot of stuff. So in order for us to connect with you on YouTube, hi, that's what I'm here for. But the app and the website is our primary means of documenting footage, and we document it from all around the globe. So now what we're getting into is our unknown location footage, less context we typically have on these. Sometimes we're able to identify additional context with some of the work that people do on other social media, like geolocation work. That's God's work. It's awesome. I remember working with GeoInt squints, we would call them, and they do some wild stuff with video, matching up key terrain features and stuff, just wild. And the work that people are doing to geolocate stuff on Twitter specifically is pretty amazing work. The very first one here is a very lucky shot from a Russian. So what you're going to see here is a Russian on the ground. It starts off like any other drone footage. You just assume there's going to be a drop munition on top of somebody. But this Russian had a different idea. He shoots it out of the sky. Check this out. Copywritten. And you have to pay really close attention to that, okay? What I want you to look for is the muzzle flashes in this trench line. Might have to bring your phone real close to your face. Did you hear about the ATF setting a trap on pistol stabilizing braces? Oh, sure, I can talk about that. Happy to talk about that. Yeah, once upon a time, I had a stabilizing brace on my Chris Vector. Ironically, I happened to get rid of that the same day that the ATF announced that. So that was interesting. What was even funnier to me is I was at SHOT Show. What was it? The same day that the ATF announced it's a total trap. The same day that they announced the final rule on stabilizing braces, they posted like a tweet or something that said, "Stop by our booth." How disconnected do you have to be with an entire industry to post that? That one's interesting to me. It really is. Anyway, this is not the gun show. This is the combat footage show. When we start up the podcast, eventually we'll start to cover stuff like that, though. Definitely. 100% tone deaf. Yeah, just imagine. Come on. What I loved seeing, and I only walked by their booth, but I walked by it a couple times just on my way to other booths. Every time I walked by, there was somebody screaming at one of the ATF. Like, what did you expect? What'd you expect? You're going to SHOT Show. Anyway. We've got some Excalibur footage here. If you're not familiar with Excalibur, extremely capable 155 round that can be fired by quite a few different systems that Ukraine has. It's precision guided. It's got a CEP of, single digits. CEP being the relative accuracy of it. Your standard, 155 HE, somewhere north of 100 meters. I did a video on this one specifically as well. But Excalibur is continuing to kind of prove its worth. And what you're going to see here is a 2S1, which is 122 millimeter self-propelled howitzer, as well as a 2A36, which is 152 millimeter towed howitzer being taken out by Excalibur. And this theoretically could have been fired by the Caesars, the PZH 2000s, I think, and the triple axes, the 777s that the U.S. provided. Here you are. One more time on that. NM Hockey 5. That level of accuracy, I believe so. There are like the extended range. There are kits that you can use for artillery that increase the accuracy, but Excalibur is one of those that is specifically designed to be that accurate. Now you also have stuff like the smart munition. Was that Bofors? Those are extremely accurate as well. Right? So it's not alone in its class of accuracy. Wrong video? What? Excalibur eliminates Russian artillery unit. No. Wrong video. I guess it is the wrong video. My bad. We've already watched that over and over again. Here's the right video. Don't worry, I'm an idiot. It's fine. Nobody said I was good at this. All right, there you go. There you go. That was the correct video that time. This next one's kind of it's an interesting watch. What you're going to see here, and now that I showed you the right Excalibur video, what you're going to see here in an unknown location. I don't know exactly where this took place, but you're going to see two Ukrainians using the RKG-3 anti-tank grenade to destroy I want to say it's a T-80 BVM. It's abandoned in some ways, so there isn't a whole lot of risk to the Ukrainians here. Relative risk, right? But it does show the general effectiveness of this munition, which is interesting. It's coming up for you guys now. Now, these things are also heavy as shit. You know, they're 5 pounds, which from a grenade perspective is very heavy.
Давай. Скажите пару слов якихось. Ага, ветки осторожно. Так, ну. Пошли, він загорівся. Пошли, поки не здетонував. Жанич! От, блядь, придурок.
Oof.
Отход.
Now they start to unask that location because if that turret decides to pop, it ain't going to be a small explosion. This video is so cringe. Why is it cringe? Like, what makes it cringe? Or are you talking about the stream? If so, then absolutely. Hell yeah. Yeah, we are. All right, let's move on to our next one. Actually, that takes us out of Ukraine footage. What I want to do is I want to check on anything that Josh has posted. So we're right in the middle of Josh's posting time for this. Oh, we've got some more footage of a TOS-1A being used. This might help bring home that earlier footage that we watched of the 1A being used earlier. This is from Solidar. video is coming up for you now. I want to point something out here, right? Because again, I can't tell you how many times somebody's compared the TOS-1A to a HIMARS. I want to show you something. He's using that to help sight it in. It's using optical sights, right? Don't quote me on it, but if I understand the TOS-1A well enough, it doesn't use digital targeting at all. U.S. Marines versus Russian Wagner. Who wins? Well, I'm going to leave that alone. You guys can ask that one or answer that one. Not sending the Abrams? I actually agree with not sending the Abrams. Jeez. All right, let's come back up. So that was the TOS-1A. Yeah. The Marines, man. Like, that's not a difficult one to figure out. Let's check back on the main site here. Again, I'm catching up still. I was out all last week, so see if there's anything else. Oh, this one was interesting. So what you're going to see here is a ZSU anti-air gun being used by Ukraine against Russian ground units. Imagine being on the other side of this damn thing.
По хробакам. Ой, хробаки поливаються. Смачно годовані. І перше, і друге.
And I want to follow up on that comment about the Abrams earlier. So we talked about that earlier on when we started this stream, but it actually makes a whole lot of sense to not send Abrams. Abrams, from a logistics chain perspective, would not be easy. The Leopard is the most ideal platform to provide, the Leopard 2 specifically. You know, the Abrams also, and this goes back to logistics, it uses so much fuel. And Will and I were chatting about this not too long ago, Will from the team. And he brought up really not being able to go too far without essentially having to reach back to a contracted team that was there to fix your gear. I had the same experience, even just on our, counter IED Duke systems that were on top of our land cruisers. Every time we made it back inside, they would have to go through the system top to bottom. These are contractors, not, other green suiters, military folks. So with the Abrams and understanding the amount of logistics that is currently contracted out by the United States military, providing them that stuff would just be so complex. Now, most of Europe uses and fields the Leopard 2s. So from a distance of parts perspective, from a maintenance perspective, from just a general logistics perspective, the Leopard is the much better platform to provide. There are some that actually argue that the Leopard 2 is a better platform than the Abrams. I don't know enough about tanks to really know for certain. you know, we did a small, quick comparison a few streams ago, and I don't have the notes that I took for that. But, you know, there's a lot of back and forth about that. So the Leopard 2 makes a whole lot of sense. Now, if you're wondering about the title of the stream, I'll cover that again quickly because we're at the end of our Ukraine footage. We're going to jump into some footage coming out of Israel and then from Denmark, actually, to close things out for the night. What's really interesting about the Leopard 2s relative to Ukraine is the back and forth going on between Poland and Germany. Germany has to provide approval, technically speaking, because of the export contract that Poland has in order to have Leopard 2s. Right? The Leopard 2 is a German-designed and manufactured tank. It's an export version that was provided to Poland. Now, Poland has since done quite a few upgrades to them. I want to say they call them the Leopard 2 PLs, something along those lines. So technically speaking, Germany has to approve that additional export to Ukraine, from Poland to Ukraine. Well, the Polish Prime Minister, and I'll relay this quote again. This is a direct quote from the Polish Prime Minister. "Consent is of secondary importance here. We will either obtain this consent quickly or we will do the right thing ourselves." Essentially, Poland is saying that regardless of whether or not they approve us to, we will do so under a small coalition, you know, if we don't get that approval. Now, Germany has said, we won't stop you, but what they haven't done is provided approval, right? So that's where essentially the Leopard 2 and the tank thing stands. All right, let's jump into a couple bits of footage that we have that are not from Ukraine. The first one here is one of the next munitions that's going to be making its way to U.S. SOF, Special Operations Forces, coming out of Israel. This system is called the Point Blank, and it is essentially a highly advanced loitering munition that can basically hover and just watch, or it can engage with an explosive payload. It's a pretty wild piece of technology. Check this out. And again, it was developed by Israel, and the U.S. has purchased them for SOF. I don't know if that's copywritten or not. Not the Mystery Machine. All right, again, I want to show you that hover right here at the beginning. This is in its hover stage, and then it decides to tilt over and do X-wing things. I didn't have a whole lot of time to do a bunch of research on capabilities, speed, distance, etc. on this, but I thought it was an interesting one for us to watch. Israeli developed, again, they call it the Point Blank. What did the U.S. say that they called it? ROC-X, ROC-X. Yeah. So that'll be headed to U.S. Special Operations Forces. And the last thing that we're going to cover tonight before I close things down is going to be a little bit of airplane porn. We're going to see the Danes absolutely getting it. Check this out. This low flyback got me the first time I watched it. Woof. All right, let's bring it back up, and we'll close it out with a little bit of a Q&A here. I won't be doing the follow-up stream tonight. For those that are wondering, I went to SHOT Show last week. I've only been home for about the last 24, just under the last 24, and I'm starting to feel the SHOT Show crud coming on already. I actually drank a whole bunch of Dayquil before we started the stream today. But what I want to do is fire up a quick Q&A here. And we'll do that for about the next 10 minutes or so. Fake. So the Q&A is live. If you guys have questions about the platform, about Funker 530, the team, SHOT Show, let me know. But I'm here for you. And as those questions roll in, what I want to do one more time is mention our sponsor for tonight. It's going to be Smith & Bradley. Big fan of theirs. I'm going to roll that beautiful bean footage, and then we'll come right back to the Q&A, and then we'll close things out.
Hi, good morning. It's Monday morning. I just got home from SHOT Show, and I'm still recovering. Let's just put it that way. But, oh, that's nice. But, one of the questions I got on the floor consistently was about my watch. I absolutely love it. It's from Smith & Bradley. It's a Swiss quartz watch. Solid steel construction, 300-meter water resistance with an anti-reflective face. It's also got a NATO watch strap, or a NATO band, which is pretty new to me. Lefties unite. It's also made in America, and it's got a lifetime warranty. Now, when something gets sent to me, I actually use it and try it. I test it to see if it's something that I enjoy. I wore it the entire time that I was there. Whether I was talking in a booth, or if I was just walking around fingering all the guns. I'm starting to get into watches. My wife got me a really nice watch when we were on a cruise for our 10-year anniversary. And this one was sent to me to give Smith & Bradley a check. You should do the same. All right, let's get back to the show. Thanks for being here. Go check out Smith & Bradley. You can catch a link for them down in the description of whatever it is you're watching. And I'm going to finish my coffee.
All right, welcome back. So that's Smith & Bradley. I'm still wearing the watch. It's awesome. It's great. I'm not a watch guy by trade. It's not a hobby of mine that I have, but I appreciate them very much for sending me one, and check the link. It's a great watch. I'm starting to get into watches, but, I was an Apple Watch guy for a long time, and I kind of fell out of love with that. It just seemed like I was always so damn connected to my phone with it. So I've started to get into, I have a Casio that's an everyday driver for me, but, this, something a little bit more, something I can put on and still wear a smoking jacket if I want to. You know what I mean? All right, let's check in on all these questions coming in, guys, and there's a ton of them. What steroids do you take? Red meat. That's about it. Did you get to go to range day? I chose not to go to range day. Coolest platform. I spent most of my time talking with potential new partners for our team. I got to put hands on, I wouldn't say it's a new system, but I got to finally put hands on the Geisley, what is it? Super Duty. That's a rifle that I've been interested in for quite some time. But I also got to see some new things coming from Oracle. I want to say it's like their new 2011 platform that I thought was cool. The Magpul folding 9mm was pretty dope as well. And I did get to play around with the H-Car from Ohio Ordnance. That was pretty awesome. What's new coming to your show? That's a heavy question. We don't know. Right? So I've talked before about how this show was always and supposed to be designed to cover footage from everywhere. I think the end state of this show is still in design. What it's really here for is to connect with you. It's to connect with the community. Because while, yes, we do have the app and the website, it's Funker 530 veteran community and combat footage, right? So what we always want to have is a way that we can just hang out and talk together. There have been shows that we've done here where it was really just, we were just hanging out 15, 20, 30 minutes, chatting back and forth. But that's the ultimate goal of this, is to connect. It really is. In fact, the original Funker 530 mission was... he uploaded combat footage to YouTube about his deployments so that his family could watch them. That's how it started. share stories, tell stories. I will say something we're moving further and further towards is dedicating as many streams as possible to share more stories than just footage. So we've had interviews with Cossack Gundy, we've had interviews with Civdiv, Willie has been on quite a few times. Frank Plum has been on the show before, and Nukem Futz Yuri, and we intend to have all of them back as well. And we're also working a couple new interviews that should take place sometime in February. Out of all the videos on your website, what's your favorite video? Abu Hajr, 100%, without a doubt. Abu Hajr, yeah, definitely. Abu Hajr, you burned us. Do you think SAS are our best SF? No. I think they all are pretty amazing people. I've had a chance to work with SAS. I've had a chance to work with the Australian SASR. I don't know them, down that far. I've also had the chance to be attached to and work alongside our own SOF. I am not SOF. I'm an Intel dweeb by trade, and they're all dope. They're all awesome. Nobody's perfect, right? And they each do things very differently. When I was attached to Ranger, they were doing 7, 8, 9K infills. The Brits dropped on top of the building. It's wild to watch. Thoughts on Russia's plan to separate the West and Kyiv supply routes? That's pretty standard practice to try to do. Sever several ground lines of communication. The ability for your adversary to supply its troops. I mean, what did Napoleon say relative to an army runs on its stomach or something akin to that? Logistics is one of the is a fundamental element of what the Army calls mission command. Some of the other elements to that are things like movement, maneuver, and intelligence. But logistics itself, many people consider to be one of the most important aspects to being able to actually wage war. And Russia's follies of logistics still exist, but they're not nearly as bad as they were at the beginning of the war. ISW did a good write-up on that not too long ago. But it's pretty standard to try to do that. Is the watch ATF compliant? I hope not. Why did we not use drones in Afghanistan? We absolutely did. What we didn't use them for is the same kind of... We didn't really see the drone-dropped bomb meta come to be until ISIS in 15, 16. They were dropping homemade explosives from quadcopters back then. That was when I was screening ISIS footage for the geospatial intelligence folks, so that hopefully, if I would do the initial triage on that footage and then send it along to them saying, hey, there's buildings, there's mountain ranges here, you might be able to geolocate this. It was effective in a couple instances. We were able to drop missiles on people's foreheads. Bad guys, definitely. So we didn't really see that until, in my opinion, ISIS started to really use that to both document and from a platform of attack of some kind. What we're seeing now is an evolution of that. The real novelty that we're seeing in Ukraine is its use from a forward observation perspective. We've seen Mark 19 gunners being walked on target with a drone. We've seen Dishka, or was it a Cord? I think it was a Cord. We've seen a Cord gunner getting walked on target with a drone. There's an entire military occupational specialty surrounding forward observation, and a drone provides you that capability while preserving human life. That's the novelty, really, in drone warfare that we're seeing. Ronnie, please tell us about your Funker team and where they're from. You sound like a Midwestern boy. I'm actually an East Coast kid. I don't mind telling you guys, generally speaking, where I'm in Virginia. That's as far as you get, though. We've got, Josh. Josh is currently out of the South, Mid-South. Will is Mid-North. Funker's from Canada. And that's the entirety of the core Funker team as it stands today. It ebbs and flows as folks in our small circle find time in their daily life to rejoin the team and back out. It happens. There are There have been as high since I've been here as 6 folks on the Funker team, but right now we're operating on a team of 4. There is an About Us, a section of the website. I'll link you guys to it right now where you can read a little bit about each of us. Our team, there you go. Why don't I have... What's going on here? For some reason, it doesn't want me to type something in the chat. If one of the mods can grab our team, if you go to the website, click on the 3 bars down at the bottom, you'll see our team. You guys ever had Operator Starsky on? No, we haven't. But I've been on other channels with Operator Starsky. All right, let's go ahead and Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead? Hot Fuzz, totally. You ever fired 2 guns whilst flying through the air? We're going to go ahead and kill the Q&A session. Thanks, guys. I love answering as many as we can. You know, again, this show is designed to connect, answer questions. So if you guys have questions about the platform, about the app, about the website, about the team, future plans, all kinds of stuff. That's what I'm here for. Release the Abrams, Ukraine will figure it out. It's not really a just figure it out problem. Like, there would have to be a lot of planning put in place for that. Travman, thanks for the 10. Thanks for the stream. A member of my local sports community was killed in combat this week in Ukraine. It gives these streams new context for me. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And thank you very much for the support to us, though. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Darcy. Thanks, everybody, for being here. The next stream should be Wednesday. Once again, if you wouldn't mind just heading over and checking out Smith & Bradley if you're in the market for a new watch. We thank those that sponsor the stream very much. This stream will be demonetized. The only, you know, from a monetary perspective, we have you and our sponsors now. YouTube has kind of stopped supporting us entirely. Once upon a time, this channel did well for us. Not so much anymore. Largely because of the content that we'll continue to show. I appreciate you guys for being here. Darcy, thanks for the $2.99. Thank you. There won't be a follow-up stream after this, but we should be good to go for the follow-up stream on Wednesday. Good night to you, and stay informed.